Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Man, I wasn't expecting that. I almost choked for some reason. Welcome. We've got GDP and PCE here coming up in a second. So real quickly, we can just kind of take a look at the charts after, started the session yesterday selling, but in the end, they actually moved up a little bit. And here you can see the S&P 500 still struggling. So meanwhile, oil up big, still expecting, well, I don't know. I thought maybe they were just going to completely topple Iran, but it kind of sounds like Trump is leaning more towards something more limited. But it is possible that there are strikes this weekend still, or highly likely there would be strikes. Gold and silver, well, a little bit of a jump there in silver that is not seen in gold. That's a little curious. Kappa, not doing much of anything interesting. Japanese yen still in a little bit of a, continuing that downtrend from yesterday. And Bitcoin. Well, Bitcoin is trying, but nothing's really happening over there. So we've got about a minute here. I got all my stuff set up, so let's clear out our levels. So for a GDP, oh wait, where is it? GDP quarter over quarter advance, they're looking for a reading of 2.8%. And PCE price index, a month over month, they're looking for a reading of spot 3. And Steffa says it's time to make your own platform. Why do you say that? I mean, I've kind of slowly been working on it. Not lately, though. I've been focused on some other things. We need a good back tester. There really are some big gaping holes in the retail platforms, aren't there? Back testing, there's issues. Machine learning, there's issues. All right, here we go. Okay. So not hearing anything from the new squawk. Tepid reaction over here. Maybe a slight buy. Okay, so they got 2.9 versus the 2.8. 0.4 on the price index. So that's probably a negative for the treasuries here. Actually not as big of a reaction as I would think. Let's see at 30. 30 is kind of our first line. And performance, rest performance. Well. So there was some decent movement in the dollar, but not the other instruments. There's Uzi. Good morning. Yeah, so I recorded a video last weekend, so I don't think I'll be able to get that out this week, but maybe the week after that, because my wife is going on big camp out with the young women. So I got that, and then I've got to replace our mailing list system with something a little cheaper. And and I got to do taxes. Taxes is probably the first priority. And then I will probably get back to some tasks in the trading platform. And I think that the next thing is going to be piggybacking off of NinjaTrader, like creating a connector that passes the data over, like Jigsaw does, creating a bridge sort of a thing. Then we would have something that you could practically use.
Block sell.
Yeah. Although for the back testing side, I don't know if that would. But my thinking is, if I can piggyback off of NinjaTrader for data and, you know, kind of get the basic parts moving, then I probably have more room to talk and negotiate with data providers. Because finding data provider partners is kind of your biggest roadblock. Now, I also am allowed to work from home on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that's about 4 hours I get back. Although 2 of them will spend streaming. So we'll spend about half of it streaming, but 2 hours is still a good amount of time that I can do some work on our platforms and things like that. So, who knows? It's pretty wild, man. The decline that we have seen in software as a service companies, it's definitely affecting the place that I work at. I don't think that you know,
Block sell.
I don't think that anything terrible is going to happen. Like here's the thing: is I look at the business and everything else, and it's like, yeah, like I could see there being some problems maybe in the maybe in 2 years. But I think that it's not a problem that should be like anytime soon. And like the business is still strong, it won't be the same situation in 2 years anyways. But what I see from the market and everything else is like all software as a service companies are going to be gone in the next, like before the end of the summer. Which just is like, makes absolutely no sense to me at all.
Bye.
How can that possibly be? And so I'm stuck in that gray space, the gray space between, is the market seeing something that I'm not, or is it full of shit? But only reason I bring that up is because, hey, maybe all software as a service companies do go out of business in the next few months. And then I suddenly find myself with a lot more time again. Possibility. It would be scary, but we would have fun too. Another thing I should note, I'm starting to get messaged on LinkedIn a lot more again. So, like, I am seeing signs that the labor market is improving, even though, like, all of the SaaS companies are just getting decimated. Well, I'd say there's quite a bit of activity out there after the GDP number, but in the end, it's not for very much, at least not in the treasuries. E-mini had a move, but I would say it's a relatively minor one, relative to the type of news that it is. The one that moved was the dollar, and you can see there in the dollar, they came 2 cents short of the downside target and bounced all the way back and are higher. So I'm not sure I can make sense, or, you know, like, I'm not a dollar trader, so I don't know if that's a reversal in higher or what. You know, in these situations, it's kind of difficult for me to predict what the dollar is going to do based on this situation. I do think, well, yeah, why would it get weaker? I don't know. Fears of inflation, but then, hey, that will mean higher interest rates, so that's actually good for the... I don't know. I don't know. A little strange. You know, now on the market side, I am also seeing some little hints, you know, like maybe something's going on. So here's the story. ECB quietly prepares global liquidity backstop as Euro debt wave builds. In the third quarter of 2026, new rules will apply to the so-called Euro repo facilities. Central banks worldwide will be able to post up to 50 billion in euro-denominated collateral, such as government bonds, with the ECB in order to obtain euro liquidity from the central bank in cases of acute need. The goal is to guarantee the permanent availability of euro liquidity, replacing the previously time-limited repo lines. So we keep seeing little things kind of suggesting that all countries are concerned about some sort of a liquidity crisis in the repo markets. This is something that's just kind of been brewing under the surface for years, before the pandemic, frankly. If the market goes into a deeper downturn, those sorts of things would start to become relevant, right? Now, I want to go and browse around now and see what people are talking about this morning. I don't know. It's probably going to be a quieter Friday, news-wise. But I'm kind of afraid to go on Reddit because people have been arguing with me about the dumbest things, frankly. Hmm. Oh, yeah. Donald Trump is directing the Secretary of War and other relevant departments and agencies to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files related to alien and extraterrestrial life, unidentified aerial phenomenon, and unidentified flying objects, and any and all other information connected to these highly complex but extremely interesting and important matters. Okay. Didn't they already supposedly do that, though? I don't know. That whole thing is weird. Epstein Files, World War III, Aliens 2026, Stranger. Yeah, I tell you what. Oh man, I'm gonna say a dangerous thing, but I'm gonna say it anyways. It's not a dangerous thing like I'm gonna get canceled, but a dangerous thing like a lot of people aren't gonna like what I'm gonna say. The Epstein Files have been a huge deal, and it's not because there are huge deals inside of the files, but just because the public is so darned interested in it, right? The public is so interested in it. Your name even barely shows up in there, even though it barely says anything about you. It's like you're getting canceled. And again, I do not see, like, because my argument before all of this was the court says that there's nothing relevant in it for us. They've released the files. On one hand, I am kind of like, well, why didn't they want these files to be put into the public? Kind of makes me feel like that the court was just being lazy, you know? But then on the other hand, I don't see this huge revelation that was in there that justified putting it out to the public. You know, like if I was the people with the files and I had to go through and do all of this work to redact the appropriate things and do all of that. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. I wouldn't want to do it. You know, was it worth it? I'm sure most people would feel that it is worth it, but I just don't see what was gained. A lawyer at Goldman Sachs got fired. That's what was gained. Ironically, the release of the files made me take them less seriously. The whole satanic pedophile elites used to make me wonder. Now it makes me roll my eyes. Well, I think the whole thing was that, like, the stuff that started the whole satanic pedophile elites yada 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 was a different thread from Epstein, right? Like, there was like people started talking about that because of Pizzagate. And then when Pizzagate took off, right-wingers started saying, well, yeah, but there's this Epstein guy and they've got like this whole temple thing and everything on their property like that. Somebody should look into that. That's where it started from, right? Yeah, and the Podesta emails. That's right, the Podesta emails. Because I tell you, like, these the sort of stuff that I mean, there is crazy stuff that has happened. Okay, I don't know if there's like a global conspiracy ring that's like constantly running this stuff and like, you know, they're killing children for their adrenaline to make themselves stay young or things like that. Yeah, or that they eat children or whatever. But I bet you that probably at least one time there was some group of people crazy group of people that did do something. You know? Like I bet you that there are isolated incidents that you can point to, right? So like with everything, when you kind of get the stories, there probably is some truth to it. It just might not be as extravagant as everybody thought, right? And I think that everybody kind of latched onto this idea that Epstein must be the window into that whole giant conspiracy. And I think that it turns out that he was doing things wrong, inappropriate, but that it was kind of an isolated thing. It was just him and his friends. And they had a lot of influence, so they pulled a lot of people into their orbit, but they weren't all doing that sort of shit. So, like, as an example, one of the things that we know happened was that in Europe, particularly with the leader of Italy was into bukkake, and they would get people to do bukkake parties, including even some celebrities. Like, that was a thing that happened. That's like proven. Isn't it so weird to talk about this? Like, that is something that happened that basically led to a world leader having to leave office, and eventually leading to the very conservative female leader that we have in Italy today. And nobody ever talks about that one, but that one's like, that's crazy stuff that really happened. We have 100% proof. Isn't that wild? Maybe I'm overspeaking when I say we have 100% proof, but I'm pretty sure that we do have, like, witness testimony from girls that were involved and all this sort of stuff. And not necessarily in this instance that they were doing something illegal per se, but just something very, very controversial that makes a lot of people not want to vote for you. This is normal in Berlin. It's really wild to me that the most well-known clubs in Berlin are like fetish clubs. Like, I'm sure that they have venues there in Berlin. If I just want to see, a headlining trance act or whatever, and they've got good stuff out there, right? But those aren't the ones that you hear about over here. Whatever. But you know what, like, really bothers me about all of this? Like, because what Uzi started saying really did, like, I don't know what's the word, triggered me. Like, it just kind of, like, pulled on that thread that's like, yep. It always makes me think back to this article that I read about how Russian propaganda works. And that Russian propaganda is not necessarily there to convince you of the thing. Like, they have this thing that they're pushing, that the Russian military is super, super strong. And it's not that they think that anybody's going to believe that. It's that they are trying to create so much noise that a reasonable person cannot actually deduce what is really going on. So it is there to create chaos and confusion. And then through all of that, they can kind of push the narratives that they want to create kind of the controversy and social tensions and so forth that they want to destabilize the West. And it appears to me that the Chinese do this as well, although it's much more subtle. But I think that the Chinese are manipulating social media all over the place. They're trying to make people more amenable to socialism, like they're doing that stuff, right? And so when you basically what happens or has happened is a lot of people have become so jaded that they just don't believe anything. So like I was having this conversation yesterday with people on Reddit about the whole dog thing. So if you haven't heard about the whole dog thing, there is an advisor in Zorhan Mamdani's circle that is kind of like a Muslim activist. It's a woman, so a Muslim activist. And she constantly spews stuff about dogs. She hates dogs. And she's constantly complaining about people with dogs in public and saying all these really quite nasty things about dogs. Like, it's really like, okay, you would never hear a presidential candidate saying this sort of stuff, okay? You speak badly about dogs, your political career in the United States is over because Americans love their pets, and especially dog lovers. And there are more dog lovers than cat lovers by a wide margin. People love dogs, okay? And the reason for this is because Islam has some passages that basically say that dogs are unclean. So the Muslim world doesn't like dogs. Now, this particular activist wasn't necessarily like, they didn't put a bill out to ban dogs in public or whatever, but like it's very clear that she would like that. I think that the tweet that kind of like really triggered it all, she said, "Oh, I was just joking, blah 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 blah." Like, which no, you're not. Like, your whole feed is you talking about how much you hate dogs. Okay, like, what the heck? Maybe you're just joking, like you don't think it's realistic that New York will ban dogs. Maybe that's true. But you clearly do want to ban dogs, right? There are other Muslim activists out there that are openly advocating they want to ban dogs in public. They're like, you can own a dog, but they can't be outside. Like, you can't walk around New York streets with your dog. Can't go to Central Park with your dog. Whatever, right? So this kind of started this whole firestorm with one Republican saying, well, if we were forced to choose, which is to say that Muslim activists became popular and strong enough in the United States to push legislation like that, we're going to pick dogs instead, right? And the left just absolutely lost it. Like, they think that is so offensive to say. So offensive to say. And I just don't see it seems like a logical thing to me. If a group of people continue to push something that I really don't like, I don't want that group of people here. It's really, really simple. It's not like I'm trying to denigrate a group or anything. This is just a logical self-interest. Right? But it's impossible to convince or discuss with the left anything about it, because at the end of the day, they don't really think that there's a real threat to dogs, right? They don't acknowledge that basically if let's say in 200 years there's more Muslims than other groups in the United States, they would ban dogs. They would. It would 100% happen. But I don't see it, right? So the propaganda from Russia and China and just the entire media landscape has had its intended effect. People just don't believe anything anymore if it's not in line with their, Like, you would think that it would, okay, cool, it will make people more skeptical and look more into their things and stuff like that. But what it really turns into is the more you look into something, the more confusing it potentially gets. And so people just only listen to the sources that reinforce their pre-existing biases. I hate the way because of where it puts it. Where do you want it to be put? What if we just put it above the open? I don't know. Like, we can make a lot of complicated logic for it, but it's just kind of an issue of deciding what would be best. Do you have on there somewhere that isn't in the middle of the chart? Oh, you just want it out of the way. You just want it like, would you rather have it in the upper corner or the bottom? Like, let's put it like at the very top of the chart. Although if you do that, it will put it next to the line still. Should be able to choose whether to put it at the top or the bottom. Okay. So, and, well, I could draw it. No, so for that's... What am I doing in this instance? Oh, yes, I'm drawing because it's in the dollar index. I might be able to do it. Well, so if you're using NinjaTrader's drawing tools, right, then it's going to put it at a specific price and time. So you have to decide what the specific price and time you want it to be at, right? Which, in this case, could just be using similar logic to how we determine the max value and min value, and then just put it a little bit inside that when you decide whether it's at the top or the bottom of it, right? But then if I were to scale out, for instance, right, then it's going to be right here. Might be harder to read, or if I'm scaling out this way, I guess we can't really show you here in this instance something that's really valuable unless I go like full screen, right? But if I go out this way, right, like it's still going to be over here, right? It's going to be, in this case, it would be like right here, right? If I wanted it so that it was still up here, even after I scrolled out and everything, then I would have to use the DX drawing to draw it. Does that make sense? I think I could do it with DX drawing. I would just have to say, do all of the other drawing logic first and then draw this. Now, another thing that I can do, though, actually, maybe this would be easier, a more elegant solution. You can click on it in here, and then it's locked. You see, it's locked. I don't like where it is. Let's move it. There we go. So what I could do, let's see if this works, okay? I could just make it unlocked by default. Let's see if that works. Yeah, okay, he says that would work. Let's see. Where is the method where it gets created? Draw all text. It's right here. Let's see here. What does this make? Here, and then I say my text dot locked or maybe is locked equals false. Compile it. I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna lock it again. But I think that when I refresh it should reposition back to where it was. Yep, it does. But now I can move it. Hey! Okay. Well, let me send you that one. I guess I have to export the add-on, huh? It'll still be version 351. All right, there we are. They're starting to think that being able to edit it is more important than having it on a US. Well, but okay, but here's the weird thing about it is that I'm really not sure, like if you just put the code for the daily volatility levels in there and modify it, you would think that it would work. I don't know, man. It's super weird. It's super weird. Honestly. Oh, actually, but no. What I would do is you take the code, right, and give it a different name. Still. Give it a different name, because then the dollar index one shouldn't be dependent on it, right? You have all sorts of... Oh, wait, what does it say when you try and rename it? Oh, here, I think I might know why you're saying that, but hold on, let's make sure I got SPSF yield curve, yeah. F. Make sure I got them all. Where is it? 351. Yes. Okay. So should be able to go into here, say new indicators, SPS, daily volatility levels, custom, generate, replace all the code, go to the top here. Custom, custom at the front so it's easier to catch. And then the constructor right here has to say custom. Oh. Just got rid of that part. I think. There we go. Okay. And then we send you that one. It was saying there was two things, right? One is that there is a constructor. Oh my gosh. I should, I can teach you some interesting things here, maybe. I don't know if you care, but. So C# is a class object-oriented language. So that means that what you do is you create a class, and then that class is supposed to model some things. In this case, it's an indicator. So I make a base class called an indicator, and then this little colon thing says, I am inheriting from indicator, okay? And every class has a constructor. That's this right here. So the constructor is public and then the name of the class. Now you notice this method is a little different from all the other methods, right? Because any other method, you have to say like protected, void. You have to say like what its return type is, right? And then you're going to have stuff in here that might be like the parameters that you have to pass into that method to be able to call it, right? But the constructor doesn't have that. The constructor is just the name of the class with no, well, you can put parameters in here, but you don't have to have a return type, because in this case, what it returns is the new instance of that class, right? So in NinjaTrader, you typically don't have to put this in there. When you make a new indicator, you don't have to make that, because NinjaTrader will make it down here and will make that call somewhere else. But if you are using NinjaTrader's facility for, you know, like controlling access to the indicators, the vendor licensing, then you have to have to define the constructor. Okay. So that was the first thing, is like you have to change the constructor name to match the class name. And then the other thing that was in there is that we created a custom enum to say whether it was the extended or the regular session. And it's, you know, that can't be duplicated. So you can either delete it, which is probably what I would do. You just delete it, and then it will use the one in the other class. Or you can rename it, and then everywhere in here you would have to rename it. So those were the two things that I just did there to make it work. Oh, did I not send it? I didn't hit enter. Yeah, so now that should not, any changes that you make to that should not affect your other, the dollar index indicator, rather. Which, by the way, doesn't, it always puts it at the regular. So right now it says it puts it at the regular session. So you can't really see it there in the dollar. Because I haven't refreshed. I'm not going to refresh. Actually, maybe I should refresh. Oh, it didn't take too long. There we go. The only problem there is that if you refresh the chart or you close and come back, then it's going to move back. Oh well. Yeah, now you can putz with it. I'm curious what else you're gonna what else you want to change though. What was it that I wanted to fix? Hmm. Yeah, it's kind of annoying in this case. So I think this would work. But the other thing that we could have potentially have done is we could have said, let's make a new indicator that that inherits from the daily volatility levels class, and then just override that one function. And I think that anybody that has the indicator should be able to do that if they know the name of the function they want to override. And the function is a public function. So in this case, I have a little function that draws the text that everything else refers to, so that I can change it just there in that indicator, and it will change it both in the dollar index and there. So maybe have it scrape the put call ratio, and it's maybe it's not calculating anything with it right now, but it would include it in the text. We could do that. What is with this the Chicago Bears moving thing? Is that really serious? Like, I can't. It's my brain kind of seizes up thinking that Chicago could screw up so badly that they would lose one of their sports teams. I saw that, but I don't know. Yeah. But then the other thing is that every time it comes up, everybody in the comments are like, "Nah, it's not happening. It's still non-committal." Believe me, they would. I'm getting so fed up with pro sports, man. So, I think we talked about this earlier in the week, but in the NBA, the thing is, if you're one of the bad teams, then you really, really, really want to get the number one pick. Because in the NBA, number one pick can be the star that is so good that your team dominates for the next 10 years, right? Like, that's just how good first round draft pick can be. And so everybody tanks as much as they can to get that pick. And it's like the only way for those teams in the bottom tier to really build up and become a good team. So people have been doing this for years and years and years and years. And then Utah does it. The Utah Jazz do it. And when the Utah Jazz do it, everybody flips out. Everybody flips out. Mainly because I think I think it's because of sports betting. Like, if you have a player on your sports betting roster and the team sits him so that because they're tanking, then that screws up you in the league. So the sports bettors are really unhappy about it. That's probably the main reason why there's so much outcry about it. But then also, I don't really think that the NBA wants a star to go to Utah. They want the stars to be in their top markets. They want them to go to LA or New York, right? So there's this whole noise, and the NBA commissioner comes out and finds the Jazz, and the guy that owns the Jazz, he's one of those guys that's like, he was a billionaire through some tech company, and then basically shifted his business to buying sports teams. So he owns the Jazz, he owns the hockey team, and they're going to bring a professional baseball team too. And that's their whole business. But man, if I was him, I would just sell the Jazz, because the NBA clearly doesn't want the Jazz to ever be a good team. It's a small market, and it's the Mormons, and nobody likes to go in and play in the Delta Center. It's hard to play in the Delta Center, and there's, Salt Lake City doesn't have the same kind of party life that the other cities do. They don't want to come. We got hockey now. Hockey players love it. Sell the basketball team. That's what I would do. I mean, I'd be very upset about it, but like from a business perspective, it seems to me like you should just sell the Jazz, which would really break my heart because I really loved basketball when I was a kid. But you know what? I don't watch basketball anymore. I hate the NBA. The way that they play sucks. Just everything about the league has gone to crap. Anyways, that's how I feel about sports. It really bothers me. I think that the thing about me, about like the way Seth feels about things, the things that Seth thinks about that I don't like, and it's not like, oh, I don't like what I'm becoming. Because I feel like I am the person that I want to be, but I feel this way because the world took a direction that I didn't like, like the video games have stalled. There's just there hasn't been a really good game-changing game out in a long time. The games that were, basically are at the top of the game now are still the whole battle royale thing, which I don't like. And if you do get a good new game that comes out, it's littered with all of this microtransaction loot box nonsense. And so it's basically like Minecraft was the last great game released, and we can play that, and even that has kind of gone nowhere, and Microsoft has not done it very well. Battlefield 6? Yeah, is that still popular? I don't know if that's that popular. We'll go to Twitch. I don't know if Battlefield is enough to keep me going, to be honest. Yeah. Looks like Marvel Rivals is still doing good. Nah, well, it's dropped off. Maybe people are still playing it, but it's not popular on Twitch for whatever reason. What's the new game this week? I don't see any of them. Oh, okay. Reanimal. Mugenics. What? Yeah, isn't Battlefield 6 the one where everyone is complaining it's turned into Call of Duty with stupid skins and fast movements, and that Battlefield 6 only has 3 levels still to this day? Does it have? I think it has more than 3. But I didn't play the full version of it. And I haven't heard very much since it came out. If you weren't arguing it being a great game, nah, I think they effed up Battlefield 6 up like Call of Duty. I don't know. Anyways, I'm just not interested in games, right? And so I feel like it's the old man that sits on the porch and yells at the kids to get off their lawn, because I hate everything about the way that the world has become. And it's always been like, no, I'm not going to become that. I haven't become that with music. When I get in the car, I want to hear new stuff. I'm listening to like 10 different podcasts. I want to track all of the new tracks in the EDM scene that are released. I want to know what the new trends are and all that sort of stuff. And some trends I like and some trends I don't, but I stick up with it. I'm still like the DJ at heart. looking for the new trend and the new sound and chasing the new sound. But when it comes to so many other things, I want to do that. I want to be doing the new game every year or whatever it is, and playing new things and trying to get good at those. But the industry just sucks so much. It's not me, it's the industry. I blame the industry. But is it really actually that? You're just not hip to the new things that the kids like, so. I don't know if anybody likes it, to be honest with you. We don't have to worry about yelling the kids to get off the lawn because they'd have to be outside for that. Yeah. Dude, I don't know what to do about kids, man. All the kids are like seem to be unhappy and depressed. You know? Like it seems to me that like 80% of kids are emo now. And by emo, I don't mean like, you know, they dress kind of punk rockish. I mean emo like they hate their life and are depressed all the time and like to talk about suicide all the time. What do you do about that? I don't know where it comes from. I don't know what's going on. Is it that kids just shouldn't have cell phones? They take away the cell phones and that solves all the problems. Take away cell phones, make them do a sport. More testosterone vitamins. Maybe it's environmental chemicals. I don't know, man. Like the thing is I can sit down and I can say, okay, I did pretty good. I was pretty happy when I was a kid. I was relatively successful afterwards. Okay. And then here are all of the things that I think you should do, right? You need to be very, very particular about going to bed on time. Watching what you eat. Don't eat a lot of sugar. Sugar can't be avoided at this day and age, but like, don't be eating candy every day. It's bad to be eating candy every day. And be doing exercise. You need to be doing something where you're really pushing yourself to 80% of your maximum 3 times a week. Right? And if you're not doing all of those things and you're unhappy, like what can I tell you other than, well, you need to do those things. But the kids don't seem to believe. You know? How do you convince them? Many of them see and know they have no future, no what. But it's probably not true, though. Man. I think... I think so many things. I want every little thing that I think about to be the, you know, if there's something you can learn from Seth. When Seth dies, I had this conversation with my wife because, oh man, I had a friend that was a girl that I was really, really good friends with. It never moved out of the friend zone. I think it was a good thing that it never moved out of the friend zone. Okay, but that was the thing, and for whatever reason, we got along really, really well. So I hung out with that girl constantly for like a year, like literally every day. Okay. And then eventually she got together with a friend of a friend, and I introduced them. And so like just after COVID, I think it was, we had them over because I'm like, oh, well, you know, you'd want to, we're talking about these people. We should have them over so you can meet them. We're talking to them. They had kind of shifted a little bit since I had last talked to them, because they weren't going to, they didn't consider themselves Mormon anymore. It kind of sounded like maybe they were even experimenting with drugs a little bit. And I was kind of like, And they lived far away, so I was kind of like, I don't think that we can really connect with these people anymore. It was kind of disappointing to me. And then in December, before Christmas, why would you do it? I don't know. They killed themselves. They were both found dead down by the river. It sounds like that he shot her and then shot himself. I don't think that it would be a murder-suicide. I think that it would be her idea, but I digress. They did that. And I really think that a major part of it was leaving your values and what made you who you are and going off. You know, like, I think people would have this reflexive kind of distaste for what I'm kind of implying here. Like, oh, you're saying that you know, their life went south because they stopped being Mormon. But I think that it's not necessarily like you stopped being Mormon. It's that, like, that is the environment that made you. So, you know, in Dune, the Dune books, do you know what happens in Dune, like after Paul and all of that sort of stuff? Arrakis becomes a paradise. Arrakis, they unlock all of the water that they have, and Arrakis becomes a paradise. And because Arrakis becomes a paradise, all of the Fremen die out. The desert is what made them a people and what made them strong. And when the desert is gone, that people die out. Not around anymore. Right? Like you are a living, breathing thing. The environment that you are in is just as much a part of you as everything else. And part of what makes a healthy person is that connection that you have with your community. And in Western societies, it has traditionally been through church. And when you don't have that community, you don't have that thing to keep you grounded in the people that you're talking to all the time and everything, you're gonna have problems. You're gonna be depressed. I promise you. I promise you. But why did I get stuck on that? Okay, that is one thing that I'm like, okay, if there's something that I can teach you. But then the other thing that's relevant here, because I forgot that there was we're talking about Paul's comment here, right? The other thing is that never in my life, because I'm a person that started watching the news really, really early, okay? When I was like literally in elementary school, the cartoons were not on when I had to leave. The cartoons were on after I would go to school. They were on later. So the only thing that was interesting to watch was like the Today Show, right? So I'm somebody that has been really keyed into the news and what's going on in the world. Much younger than most people. I've been around for a long time now, okay? And there has never been a time in my life where there wasn't doom and gloom about the future. That is just our thing, because we are terrified of the future. And you know what? I think it is just the natural human inclination. The people that were concerned about the future and did things to protect themselves were the ones that survived in a famine or a war or things like that. And so that is why we as humans are much, much more prone to the negative emotions. We're much more worried about the risk. The loss affects us more psychologically than win does. And yet, every time, for everything, especially in the markets, man, it pays to be optimistic. It always pays better to be optimistic. I remember the one that really, really solidified this for me. Like, I kind of was like running this way, but the thing that really made me be like, yeah, I'm always going to take the optimist route, was when the Federal Reserve was talking about starting quantitative easing again. And there was so many people on the television talking about how bad this would be, and this shows that the economy is actually really bad, so it would be, you know, the markets would sell off because of that, and it's going to cause all of these other problems, and yada 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 yada, right? So when the Federal Reserve announced quantitative easing, and probably one of the biggest Federal Reserve decisions that was ever made, the market sold off hard. And Mohammed El-Arian was on television talking about how bad of a deal this was and all of this and that, right? And then after the market closed, in the overnight market, they started moving up. And that day was probably the best day in history to buy stocks. There's probably not another point that, I mean, I guess if you had bought at the bottom of the 2008 crisis, but the amount of liquidity that was unleashed upon the markets and the amount that it moved the markets up was just unbelievable since that time. And it's so wild that so many people in the market were absolutely convinced that this is going to be the death knell of the market. They couldn't have been more wrong. Always pays to be optimistic. And I look at all of this stuff they're talking about AI. The AI is going to replace all of us, and nobody. If you don't make enough money in the next year, if you don't become a millionaire in the next year, then you're going to be stuck in the permanent underclass. I think it's all bullshit. And I can give you logical arguments for it and everything, but you're talking about something that's really complex. Being able to predict the way that it goes is really, really hard. And there's going to be things that happen. I tell you, it's just going to be all of a sudden one day, right? The robots are going to get stronger and all that. And there's going to be one day where all of a sudden everybody realizes, actually, this means this. And it wasn't something that was on anybody's radar and that any of us expected. Okay. And so how do you deal with that? And I'm telling you, this is where you have to use intuition. You allow that neural network to kind of see how this thing behaves, and it figures out the rules. You use your intuition and stay optimistic. That's the rule. Stay optimistic. And that's always where the opportunity is. So to these kids that are talking about the future, right? And you feel like you have no future. I'm telling you, you do. Not only do you have a future, but your future is going to be brighter than any other generations before you. Just like it was for everybody else. It's going to be different. The kids in the future, the thing that you're going to be dealing with is population decline. That's rough. There's going to be some real rough things with population decline, and there's probably going to be a lot of economic volatility in your life. But there's also going to be a lot of opportunity, and as the population declines, that just makes you more and more valuable. So if you stay optimistic, you're going to have opportunities. I just noticed that the 2-year volatility exploded. How did you notice that? Well, there definitely seems to be some, like, even though the yield curve hasn't moved, the shorter end of the curve does seem to be moving more. Young people always talk about the future. It's empty, but talk to older people and they think the young ones will just find new things to be hopeful and happy about. Well, I mean, the thing is that how can you even say what it's going to be? I tell you, if I were to talk to my teenage self about the way that we use AI, I would have been ecstatic. And you know what? I am ecstatic now. I love using AI. I use it every day. I love talking to them. They're not as fun to talk to as that one sycophant GPT, but they're still great, and they'll solve so many problems for me. I don't think that it replaces me. You still have to have somebody prompt the machine. And a lot of it now is kind of setting the system up and that the LLM can work in, which requires a lot of thought. But, you know, we're doing more than ever. And I feel that, man, I don't think I've ever been at a job where we were like, we don't need more people, right? Always want more people. But you just maybe aren't able to hire them because of the business. And the AI should be able to unlock the business side, right? To really, truly unleash your business so that it reaches its full potential and hires more people. You know, like I've been enjoying everything about it. And the fact that the market is so pessimistic that, you know, all of these companies are going to go kaput and yada, yada, yada is just, I'm very, very disappointed that that's the way that they've taken it. I don't know what's going to happen with where I'm working, but it's going to happen in places. There's going to be companies that were good companies and could have continued on forever and continued to be great companies that generate revenue that will be unfairly terminated or broken apart, whatever it is that happens. Not because the world changed or anything like that, but because people are stupid. Went from 192 to 294. Oh, on the volatility number on bar charts, huh? Well, that's really interesting. And that's where the whole depression stems, because the who knows, of course, and yada yada. Imagine the negative impressional, sad younger self now absorb nothing but TikTok sadness and more. I don't know, man. But then, like, why is it that nobody can sit down and say, this thing is making me sad, this thing is making me sad, I'm not going to deal with that? Like, they want to be sad. I don't know. The issue with what you're saying is that it doesn't provide us a viable path towards a solution for young people, does it? I can come in and I can say, limit social media, go to sleep on time, and exercise. Go to church. Do those 4 things. Pretty good chance that you'll be happy. That's a solution. But it seems like the kids don't like that answer. My own kids, that seems like they don't like those answers. Not that I've had that discussion with them, like, well, this is how you deal with blah, 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 right? But those are the things that I always push when those stuff comes up, and they're just unlocked. But maybe the problems for my kids are not the same problems for youth in general. I tell you what, the last we've talked about a lot of stuff. I went on a long rant there. We still got 15 minutes left. Depends on the type of sad. Okay, so do you guys know more about this? Because I was always taught that depression is caused by chemical imbalance in your brain, and that's why you need medications to be able to help fix those chemical imbalances and yada yada yada. And now I'm being told that no, that's not that, and that antidepressants aren't that great. They don't solve the problem that well, and they cause you other bigger problems. And that the real solution to depression is exercise and change what you think about. Can that really be the case? I don't know. Oh yeah, which chemical is there only one? Which happens when it's too high? Same pill, too low? Same pill, not here, there at all? Other chemical. Well, I mean, there are some, you know, issues that people can have with different neurotransmitters, but vitamin D is surprising. Well, that could be a big part. That really could be a big part of it, because it's winter. And here in Utah, you know, like the thing that's been so weird about here in Utah, because we've had a really bad drought this year. We have not gotten snow until this like past week. We did not get snow, but it was cloudy the whole time. It was kind of cloudy and dreary the whole time. It was just warm and never actually rained. Depression and exercise fight each other a bunch. But then I also kind of think, well, unless you're going to do a school sport, what's the exercise supposed to be? Unless you're going to come into the... Because I don't know... Okay, like, how do I put this? I don't know how to do a sport without it being hardcore. Right? Like, I want to go and lift the heaviest weights doing the most... I really think Olympic weightlifting is really a grade above the weightlifting that most people do at the gym, like the bodybuilding that people do at the gym. And if they were to go and try doing Olympic weightlifting, they would just be completely right. But it's not just that. I've always done it in a warehouse or in my garage, whether it's below freezing or it's 100 degrees out there. And oh man, I can sweat. I think there must be this thing where like when you sweat because you're out in the heat or whatever, that you get better at sweating. I'm really good at sweating. I'm like, you know, you ever watching the NBA when they're really working hard and the sweat is just constantly dripping off of them, and you're like, how can anybody sweat that much? I can sweat like that. I sweat like that when it gets hot. Right? But I don't expect hardly anybody else to enjoy doing that. Right? It sounds miserable. But that brings me back to the Fremen thing. It's like, that's the environment that you're in, right? If something all of a sudden changed for me, if I all of a sudden came into a large amount of money, there are certainly some things that I'm only going to change if it makes me better, if it makes me more effective. But most people, they just want to live a life of luxury now. No, it's the worst thing you could do. Because you will be abandoning everything that made you, everything that got you there. If you abandon those things, you will eventually crash. So you've got to exercise. You've got to have a thing that like becomes a part of you. And how do you give other people that? You can't. They have to find it. You know? And a lot of people, they just never bother and they never find it. It's because you're competitive. Well, I don't know. I mean, I am competitive, but I think it's not that. I think it's that I like to do hard things. Right? My neurotype and the ADHD and all those sorts of things basically make it so that it's hard for me to be interested in something unless it's difficult. Right? none of these tasks are difficult, but there's just a lot of them and we have to tie them all up. I'm the worst at that. Now that I can do it, I make my list, I just barrel through them, and to me it's about doing it as excellently as possible, which includes getting it done timely manner, right? But I'm not going to be engaged when it happens, right? But once it turns into here's the thing that's very difficult to do, and most people can't do it, and in order to do it, you really have to put a lot of time and effort into it, and yada yada yada, and then all of a sudden it's interesting, right? Like I've never, like, this is the latest hobby. The latest hobby is penmanship. I always had terrible handwriting in school. I always hated writing. And now it's like, but there's different scripts that you can write in, and like calligraphy and stuff that require a great deal of practice to be able to do, and to do well, and all of these things. And there's this whole world about how to do it and different ways to actually write. Like most people write with your fingers, but if you're going to be writing all day, it's probably better to write with your whole arm. Then, oh man, it's so much deeper of a rabbit hole than I thought. But the rabbit hole could only be opened up once I realized that it was hard. You know? This is probably why day trading will always be the ultimate. Because ultimately what attracts me to it is that it's hard. If it was this really, really easy thing that anybody could do, and anybody could come in and make millions of dollars, I don't think it would interest me. Even though you'd make a lot of money off it. Obviously, you're never going to find something like that. It's both easy and brings you a lot of money. So maybe actually the ultimate thing to chase is to make a lot of money, because making a lot of money is hard. But I like a challenge. These games, not challenging. Games they make these days, not challenging. It's like they're doing everything they can to not challenge people. Even if it's competitive, but it's like team competitive, so that your team can carry you, right? So that you don't have to face your own individual inadequacies. How else would they make it for everyone if people like us had to actually try? Yeah. Well, that's the problem ultimately, right? That's what killed gaming, was that they wanted to make it for everybody. There are games that are for everybody, like Minecraft. Okay? But like if you can make a shooter, like Overwatch. I don't like the way that Overwatch went. When the game came out, that it was great. And it was good that they kind of had a variety, like that people that weren't like full on first-person shooter experts that could get in. But then as time went on, they just softened it more and more. It wasn't as fun. Nah, it shouldn't be a game that's for everybody. It should be a game that's for competitive, try-hard males. Understand your audience and go for your audience and stop watering everything down to pull in people that are never really going to come anyways. Whatever. I'm to the point now. Yeah. I think so. I think this is another thing that has maybe attracted me to some of the things that I've been doing recently. Is like, okay, I liked playing multiplayer games. So what everybody else is playing is the relevant factor, right? And if they're not making good games, or the games that are popular are games that I don't like, then that kind of hurts it as a hobby, right? But writing, nobody can screw that up for you, right? That is all me. I can sit and I can do it. I can do it anywhere. And it doesn't matter what the rest of the world does. It'll still be something I can do and enjoy. That's basically what happened. Is I stopped doing the hobbies that were like, you know, everybody getting pulled into, because I've gotten so sick of every time that happens how it turns out, right? People rush in and ruin it. The community shifts and goes in a different direction. That sort of nonsense. It's good. It's good. And you know what? Like working with computers, that's challenging. I enjoy that. Part of the reason why I think that AI is so great is that it allows me to tackle even more challenging problems. I hope that it just continues to go, that we just keep tackling harder and harder things. Because this future that everybody else seems to want, where the robots just do everything and you just sit around all day, sounds like a fucking nightmare to me. I'm having fun working. Maybe part of it is that being around kids all day is a bit too much for a person like me, right? It really, really strains my attention and my nerves. But going in and tackling a problem and solving things that plaguing other people, especially when it's that kind of a problem, like, you know, these teams, they've had this issue for a long time, and it's really hurt their own workflow and been an annoyance for them for a long time. And you're the one that comes in and actually solves it for them, and then that's the best, man. That's the best. All right, well, it's time to get going. I'm actually kind of sucks where we're at. I don't know, like, it must be because we're getting some news. What? Yes, University of Michigan. That's right. I always forget the University of Michigan number because I kind of don't buy it, I guess. Lower than expected, 3.4 versus 3.5. Okay. I was going to say, it does look like the 10-year has kind of dug a little hole here at 30, but the way that things are kind of showing up and everything kind of suggests to me that there's still going to be some movement today. Whether it's down further or not remains to be seen. I actually do think that it's probably to the downside. Like what we're seeing right now is, yeah, like treasuries have had huge rallies, but like people are still want to come in and sell it. So until that changes. You think that they would be so bearish treasuries if Donald Trump wasn't the president? I wonder a lot sometimes. But whatever. Guys, what do we got next week? We're coming into the end of February next week, aren't we? Next week. Oh, that moved a little bit more. What was that? That couldn't have been the University of Michigan number. Wowzer. Oh, we got the Supreme Court ruling. Oh, shit. Okay. This is huge. But the way that the markets are reacting to this ruling is exactly the opposite that I think should be happening. Actually, well, no, I the equity's liking it. That sure, that's probably fine. We've got to get the ruling. Maybe we can get it from SCOTUS blog. Okay, so the Supreme Court has ruled against Trump's tariffs. That is the headline. Trump's global tariffs struck down by U.S. Supreme Court. Wow. I isn't that what I have always kind of said? I don't think that he actually has the power to do this. Oof. But if they enacted under a federal law meant for national emergencies, yes, he has other ways of trying to enact it, right? And then we'll go through the court case again. Do we got anything from SCOTUS blog? No, we don't. I will have to update what I think about this on Discord later in the day. I guess on the paid Discord. But wow. I mean, so the big question I have is, do they have to pay back? Right? If the government has to pay back the revenue from the tariffs, that could be so devastating. That could be so devastating. That's interesting. The treasuries are bouncing back pretty hard here. That's interesting. 6-3, the IEEPA does not authorize the president to impose the tariffs. Okay. All right. So again, I'll say two things. One is he could enact it through a different law and then to go through the whole legal process all over again. And B, do they have to give the tariff revenue back? Maybe the SCOTUS does not rule on that particular bit, but ooh, mama. This is going to be such a massive thing for the markets. Oh, I'm also hearing some pushback on the story that Donald Trump wants a limited action, with them saying that they are looking at a variety of options, including regime change. Why would they push back? Oh, that's even more curious than what just happened with the Supreme Court, but probably not as big of a deal yet. I mean, if there's regime change in Iran afterwards, then I'm definitely going to look at that one to be like, that was the thing you could have known that it was going to happen, right? Oh man, I'm all waiting. I'm waiting to see. Well, traders see Fed waiting until July. Well, it wasn't. I thought July was earlier than they thought that they were going to cut rates anyways. Yeah, whatever. I want to know more about it. It's too late. It's too early. You know, we're not going to know for an hour. Guys, I'm going to get going. Wild move. Wow. Well, it was a wild. You know what, though? Like, I can remember this one time when Donald Trump tweeted something about tariffs, like during his first term. And the market just went so crazy after that. This seems like it should be just as big of a deal. The market's moved, but it was not truly like 5-alarm fire, like this is crazy shit sort of a thing. So maybe it's because they don't know what to think. They're waiting for more details. Maybe it's that, you know, the guys at the bank, maybe they get the details and they see that while it's a ruling against Trump, it's still quite limited. We'll see. All right, guys. That's all I can say. I'm going to get going. Stay excellent.